Internets, hello you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 4. There's going to be full spoilers for the episode, which may just be my favorite episode of Daredevil since the Netflix era. It truly feels like now we have saved Daredevil. This episode was a Bullseye-centric episode, but it also brought us lots of character development for all of the supporting characters while leveling up our two leads. If the first season was Born Again because of Matt basically reforming into Daredevil and Wilson reforming into Kingpin, this season is much more about these two men having these mythic identities and being desperate in them. We got a lot of name calling of Kingpin as Kingpin, not Wilson. We got a lot of iconography as Daredevil as this shadowy devil. There's so much to talk about this episode, so I'm going to dive right in. If you're new to this page, please hit that subscription bell. I talk about comics, I talk about movies, I talk about TV, I break down week to week all of Daredevil. We're going to do The Boys next, so hit that subscription bell. But most of all, I'd love to know in the comments what you guys thought of this episode. Please, let's have a conversation in the comments below. Let's talk about Daredevil Born Again. Okay, so this episode brings Bullseye back in such a powerful way, and this season is managing to be both a season 2 of Born Again, but also a season 5 of Netflix, because, and I'm calling it Netflix because that's who distributed it. The show has always been made by Marvel, and I think a lot of people get that misinterpreted, but this is, when I say Netflix, I mean those 3 seasons that were airing on that show. But this is the first episode, I believe, that's using footage from that old series. So it's interestingly a season 5 and a season 2, and this episode definitely felt like that because we get a lot of closure on moments. The finale of season 3, which may have been the finale of all time, if not for people loudly on the internet clamoring for it back, basically had Bullseye going at Vanessa and the revenge that was. That got to come to a head in this episode, but in a very different way. We've got so many different dynamics because the writing is so rich. I want to start with Bullseye because what he's going through and the fact that we've got Daredevil saving him at the end of this episode is so fascinating after killing Foggy. But there's this actual release and redemption that he wants. He genuinely seems like he's trying to do the right thing for a moment. He's not a good guy. He opens the episode by killing a lot of people to bring attention to something. But this whole arc of Dexter is so fascinating because you truly feel Wilson Bethel as Poindexter trying to do something right to even the scales, and you believe that he believes that. And that is such a fascinating mirror for Daredevil because he's coming from the other side. He's got all this guilt. He always feels like he's doing things wrong. He's always just trying to do the right thing and find his way out. And then you got a lot of very interesting mirroring in the episode of literally a shot mirroring Daredevil and Kingpin. Now, I react to these over at Real Rejects where I watch the whole episode and break them down after, but in reacting to that, Greg brought up a really good point in that there's a lot of imagery, and I've always noticed this in the comics, but they really did a good job in this episode of having the angel and demon imagery inverse, right? In the comics, it's very easy to see, but I didn't point it out in this episode until the shadow use of Daredevil in the corner when he's with White Tiger, this full demonic imagery of this horned man in the corner, and then you've got this bathed in white Wilson Fisk, and it's so interesting to see this angel imagery be used for pure evil and this devil imagery, which is obviously the whole point of Daredevil. But this episode really captured a lot of those flavors while also furthering the desperation. Now, we've seen Wilson Fisk desperate. That's where he's always been. He's this petulant child. He's got this boundless energy wound up inside him. But now, if Vanessa's dead, which I think she is, what is that Wilson going to look like? What is that Kingpin going to look like? Because on the other side, Daredevil is fighting like a caged beast this whole season. There's been a lot more ferocity. He's always been ferocious, but the rage and the unbridled frustration of what do I do? He's always one step ahead of me. These guys are more desperate this season, and I really love that the Born Again title itself is mirroring a different thing this season. With Daredevil Born Again as a title, it gives comic fans a little flavor of like, oh, the Frank Miller run. Oh, that's a fun way to talk about, rebranding a show and bringing it back. But they adapted a lot of Born Again in the traditional sense, in the comic book sense, in season 3 of the original Netflix show. So Born Again was kind of a cheeky way to bring back the show with season 1. And that Born Again element was these two men, as I said, resuming their other sides, coming back, being born again as Daredevil, being born again as Kingpin. Can't do that forever. So what is season 2? I love that this episode introduced the idea of this Born Again New York initiative and talking about the politics of Born Again. And I first thought, oh, like the renewal program. The Batman used that incredibly to show the corruption of any major organization, how people can ruin it and all these things. Obviously, we see Kingpin doing that. He's funding the atrocities of the AVTF through the guise of fixing the city. He's using all of these tools and making it look like, it's propaganda. That's what politics is. And here we have this boxing match. Bring that to a head And it also, in that language with the governor, shows how much this is definitely mirroring our world with Make America Great Again. Born Again, the Born Again Initiative, the America Great Again. All of this beautifully mirrored with this mayor who is now flailing and desperate and willing to break any law and do anything he needs to do to get what his way, whether that's the right way or not, that's how he's going to see it, his desperate, childish way of keeping power. And we see his power slipping. We see it with Mr. Charles in this episode. We've got that incredible scene with Matthew Lillard, who's able to, like no one does, overpower and keep control of Kingpin. Even as Kingpin's flailing out, he's in control until he himself slips when Mr. Charles says you can put your hands down, and then obviously loses all control because, you know, the shooting and all the violence that occurs from making a arrogant mistake. And I've said this before about Mr. Charles. I love that Matt and Wilson are obviously clearly mirrors of each other, but Mr. Charles feels like a mirror to the other sides of Kingpin that Matt isn't. He is someone in power, but instead of being a closed fist, he is loosey-goosey and arrogant and flippant, and he's charming, and he's got this cherubicness. He's got this ability to be very boyish while saying the most horrific things. And obviously childish and boyish are very different in those mirrors. So really love the Mr. Charles stuff in this episode. Really enjoyed the governor stuff in this episode that opened my eyes to the Make America Great Again stuff. Also intrigued by the fact that this is our governor here. We saw the key to the city, and we see that someone in the show is handing Spider-Man that very key in July 31st. So does Kingpin appoint her to have more control over the city? And do we get Kingpin in Spider-Man Brand New Day? Every single week it looks more and more likely, even though they're claiming it's not going to happen. So we've got great Kingpin leveling up. We had great Poindexter leveling up. We had great Daredevil leveling up as he's fighting his frustrations of saving, and he's taking on that demonic as an angel entity, even in putting on the AVTF outfit. At no point was there Matt Murdoch in this episode. At no point was there a moment where we saw Matt as Matt. We saw him either as Daredevil the whole episode or as another kind of devil, an AVTF agent. And all of those times he's doing the right thing, but under the guise of an evil entity. And I loved that we never saw Matt once this episode. And that scene in the church is the first time we've gone back to the church since the Netflix era. And that was with his mom and all the things in season 3. So this episode really hit the action of those 4 set pieces: the scene in the diner, the boxing scene, the scene with Matt with Bullseye and Daredevil fighting in his apartment, and then obviously the final madness right after. And then there was more action in there that I'm not thinking of. There's so much action in this episode, but all of it served character development. All of it felt like in a different tone, but very similar to the Netflix show where they use action as punctuation to continue the drama with bursts of action. It never felt like it was just thrown in. It never felt like it didn't serve the show. This, to me, hitting Catholic Matt, hitting some lawyer stuff by having Kirsten as a lawyer in the underground, the only place you can help as a lawyer. We got lawyer elements, church elements, action elements, full-on comic stuff. This episode did everything right, in my humble opinion. This is the most fun I've had with Daredevil since that original run of the show. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be Netflix. It feels like it's its own thing, but it feels like it's taking the best of this new Born Again era and a lot of the great elements of that era and beautifully like putting them together in a way that I didn't think would be possible. I haven't felt this way about a Marvel show, the specific feeling, since that era. So if this sticks the landing, it's up there with Loki for me. I think if it sticks the landing, it's going to pass WandaVision as my number 2 show, because these feelings are why I wanted to save Daredevil. And I actually retroactively am thinking about how Born Again Season 1, I think I was more forgiving because I basically thought that was the best we could get. And that was those team members having to do a lot of blending these worlds. And I thought, like, this is really fun. I'm glad to be back. This is the quality and fun and inventiveness and action. Everything I love about the old show and the new all coming together. This is something so special. What an episode of TV. Do you think Vanessa's actually dead? How do you think Catholic Guilt Boy is going to handle saving like Bullseye, especially in that moment? How is Kingpin going to react now that he has a reason to hate Daredevil even more because he saved the man who just killed his wife? How do you think it's going to go with Kirsten and all of the AVTF being on her? What do you think about the parallels of the Make New York Great Again, Born Again act, and all the other elements of this show that are just genius? I'd love to know in the comments below. Let me know. I will see you next week for episode 5. I'm so glad this show was weekly. I'm so glad they paired 2 and 3. This episode feels like its own beautiful baby, just by itself for one powerful moment. This hour of just peak. I cannot wait for next week. So holy crap. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next week. And The Boys starts soon, so that'll be coverage as well. And Mario is up and lives every Saturday. Lots of stuff on the page. Join me. I'll see you soon. Bye.